How you doing? You
Yeah,
all right?
not bad. How are you? You all right?
Yeah, nightmare, Mark, nightmare, absolute nightmare. But we're there. Can you hear me all right?
I can hear you loud and clear, mate. Yeah, that's it.
So, what you been up to?
Oh, same old, mate. Really, the only thing is I've done a lot of miles this week. I've been running around all over the place, trying to drum up a bit of work. And the M25's been messing me about this week. I got stuck on it for hours on Monday. But yeah, it's taking its toll. I'm knackered. What about you?
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I've had one of them weeks. You know, you're glad it's Friday. Absolutely glad it's Friday. Complete and utter. Just one of them things. I'm finding it like the industry's a bit pants still. You know. I don't know how you're finding it this week, but it's been a bit tough.
Real slow this week, I must admit, really slow. And I kind of think, well, you know what? April's next month. Are we in a situation where all the budgets and everything gets renewed next month? Is that what it is? And then we'll go again or not?
I don't know, mate. There's always an excuse in this country, isn't there, that we can't. We'll wait till this happens. We'll wait till the war happens. Now we're going to wait till this happens. Wait till that happens. You know, absolute rubbish.
That's the
But
trouble,
anyway,
isn't it?
look, good to be back again. No Charlie this week again, but he'll be back next week, I'm told.
That's it. He's gallivanting around. At least somebody's busy.
Yeah, Lee C's busy. He's doing it. Today we're going to start obviously with our normal what's doing your head in, but we're going to talk about nationals versus independent hire companies. Something I know that's close to your chest. You like the stats, Mark, so no doubt you'll give the listeners a few of the stats that are going in.
Got some stats ready. You know I love a stat, mate, so I've got some stuff right here.
As we understand it, you know, the UK plant hire industry is worth more than 10 billion a year, as we know. We always talk about it. Yet the biggest companies control less than 10% of the market, which was surprising when we looked right into it. And I know we're talking about overall hire, so there'll be people out there saying, "Oh, you know, this one's this big, that one's that big." But when you're talking about overall arching hire companies, only 10% of the market is controlled by some of the many hire companies around. So who really runs the industry? That's what we're going to ask ourselves today. The big national hire firms or thousands of independents, and there's quite a few thousands of independents, more than we thought there was. And why do the contractors often split their spending between both? What do you say on that?
Well, I think they do. I think there's pros and cons to both, and I think the nationals have got the coverage, and that's important to customers. So you can be anywhere in the country and make the call to the number and get something delivered. But I think that where the independents come in, the independents are. I think they've got more of a niche, haven't they? You often find the independents run that item of plant that no one else runs. They've got 3 or 4 of them, or they've got a fleet of them. I think we've had this over the years where somebody rings up and they need a specific machine to do a specific job, and you end up, you haven't got it in your fleet. It's not run of the mill. It could be a white elephant if it was in our fleet, and you find that some of these independents are absolutely known for it. Yeah, I mean, I remember going back to the Crossrail days. Yeah, M. O'Brien, for instance, were renowned for the chameleons, weren't they?
Yeah,
They had loads of them, and
they were part of the big innovation towards that at the time. Yeah, absolutely. Working with the OEM to get that machine off the ground.
And that's what I mean. You see, and you find even on the smaller things, some of the bigger wheeled excavators. I'm talking 22, 25 ton. The real big stuff is run by smaller companies. Some of the really small ducks, like the 6 ton, we run. So it just shows you that people have their niche, and I think the nationals are great of doing the run of the mill stuff, but when you get to your specialist stuff, you find that some of the independents are really good at that. Really good at that.
So have you got any other stats for us on what the value is? Like we said, it was 10 to 11 billion.
Yeah, well, I've got so this will really probably open your eyes up here, Mark, and this is an approximate market structure. So the national PLC hire firms, believe it or not, hold a market share of between just 25 and 30%, which really, really opened my eyes because I thought it was way higher than that.
Yeah, we did always think, everyone talks about, I think when Ricky Ellen was on, it was about 50% of the independent market, but it's actually higher than that by the looks of it. It's around about 70 to 75%, which was...
It is, yeah. So regional and I've got the stat here, regional and independent companies, 70, you're bang on, Mark, 70 to 75% of the market. And that's really surprising because I actually thought it was the other way round.
So this is probably one of the most fragmented industries in the construction, then, isn't it? It's very much, you don't really, there's not a, what I mean by that is there's not a model that's everyone's gone by, is there? It's quite fragmented in the way that you've got your one-stop shops, we do everything, and then you've got your independents who are a bit more niche by the sounds of it.
Yeah, I think so. And I think where this is probably a little bit more obvious is probably if I roll back to my tool hire days, you have people that, when you think about it, it's people that specialise in access, yeah, like aluminium towers and all those kind of things. Then there was people that specialised in formwork and acros and stuff like that. And I think that's what's happened over a period of time is people have specialised. I mean, here's an interesting thing. I mean, roll back many, many years. A Plant used to do a bit of accommodation, but they weren't massively renowned for it. You look at A Plant now; they're huge in accommodation and site welfare, and they've obviously found their niche, they've found their market share, and that's been. Why wouldn't you expand something that you're doing great at and making money at? Yeah,
absolutely. We've seen a bit of that consolidation as well, haven't we? Where companies have moved away from traditional plant hire, like Arden have come away from excavators and Nixon have come away from general plant and bits and pieces, just more into accommodation and specialist welfare and stuff like that. So, yeah, people are definitely taking up. But look, the interesting thing from the outside is it looks like the big names dominate the market, but in reality, it's a different story. That's what we're saying, isn't it? It's we always talk about the nationals as if they run the roost, but generally they're not doing as well as we think they are, and they're not as profitable as some of the independent companies are there at the moment. When you look at the likes of Sunbelt, Speedy, HSS, they've all had some big consolidation, and and the independents. What we're hearing is certain independents, which will remain nameless, have had record Januaries. Be it us being in early March now, but we've had record Januaries, which is quite something.
absolutely. And I suppose when you're a small independent, I would argue you'll know this, Mark. You can react quicker to the market, yeah, because you haven't got thousands of this. You've got maybe tens of that, yeah. So if something's costing too much, or you know yourself, if you've got to run what the market requires. If currently we're doing a lot of tunnelling, like we have done over the years with Crossrail and Thames Tideway, you might have a lot of stuff that's for the tunnels. But when the tunnelling comes to an end, you've got to get rid of it. You've got to move it on because until the next job. Now, what independents are great at, because they can react so quickly, because they don't run 500 of this or 400 of that, they can get rid of their 10. They can invest in 10 something else that's needed now. And that's what I think one of the major benefits of being a small independent is. They can react quickly to the market, really quickly.
Absolutely, but it doesn't seem like the contractors have always had the faith in them. They've driven by cost, haven't they? Trying to get the best deal by giving the most business to the one major hire company. But it's like a vicious circle. It's like that hire for buy thing that we've done before, where every 7 years it seems like, oh, we'll hire everything, and then we'll buy everything, and then we'll hire everything, and then we'll buy everything. And it seems a bit like this, where we went through that stage of being in consolidating everything into like one-stop shop type of scenario, and now people are realising that maybe they're not getting the best service, and they need to think outside the box and maybe have more regional players that can sort the job out better than some of the nationals.
I think you're right, and I think that's one of the niches, isn't it? I suppose of a small company is that although they haven't got the buying power, and they're not going to be cheap, are they? Because they just haven't got the buying power of the big nationals. But the reality is they've probably got a real niche set of guys. Let's say operators, for example, a bit like ourselves. We've got a very select few operators that have been with us a while. They stay with us a while, and probably the same as all these other little companies around the country. And when you ring up, you're not getting a random person. You're not getting an unproven person. You're getting Dave, who's done 30 jobs for us. We know he's good. You know.
And for those like just stepping back a bit, for those who many of the students and younger people coming into the industry that listen to the pod, 7,500 views, Mark, in the last 28 days, by the way, which is very encouraging. I'll get you the stats over to there. Just to break it into what contractors' logic is. I mean, they use the naturals really for what? Large infrastructure projects, framework agreements, specialist equipment sometimes, and obviously you get a national coverage, don't you? But there's a lot of contractors now splitting it out for getting their better pricing on daily hires, flexibility, and above all, I think relationships is where they're going. So as they say, nationals will win the frameworks, but the independents win the daily work by the sounds of it, and I think that's where they're outbidding and out. So yourself, frameworks can be quite, the margin can be quite low.
Yeah.
And one day the hire industry is going to sit up and notice, especially the big PLCs, and say, do you know what? Maybe it's about profit and not just turnover. and maybe we won't see so many changes like we have, and so many bigger hire companies make so many redundancies like they have in the last 6 or 7 or so months.
We've seen it a lot recently in certainly with some of the changes, and I think the downsizing of some of the major projects. And I hope that after April there's some real infrastructure work keeps everyone busy and feeds the industry. Because one of the biggest challenges, and this is probably a topic for another day or another session, is that obviously if you're a young person looking to come in the industry, all you see in the construction industry are heavy peaks and troughs. And that really would put someone off, because obviously if we've all got a family or we want to start a family, if we've got mortgages or we've got continuous rent to pay, you need continuity of work. And the way the government are with the construction industry at the moment is the continuity of work is not there. And that's a major problem, I think, for our industry and young people coming in.
Well, I think that's probably why the industry changed. When we first started off, you wouldn't rehire from anyone, would you? Definitely not your competitors. And just that wow fact for again new people in the industry, people don't understand outside the industry that hire companies often hire equipment from each other, don't they? It's quite a popular thing to do now, and I think maybe that's because of what you're saying there, because it's peaks and troughs. It's easier to shift in and out equipment that you don't own yourself. So sometimes the machine that you hire from a company actually doesn't belong to you. So when you look at someone, the majors that have successfully linked onto that, this was something that was really done by the independents, wasn't it? The independents would have a little bit of a link network here and there, and they would, you would be renting, I would be renting, I'd ring you up because you was a mate, and I'd rehire an excavator or top up my fleet because of whatever, or you might do something specialist that I didn't do. Whereas now the hire companies, they've been very successful, the big ones, the Speedies and the HSSs of this world with their managed service, haven't they? Where the customer can come and do like a one-stop shop, and you've got a Speedy desk with, Flannery's and Lynch and Gap and everyone on there, which is quite funny, isn't it, really, when you think about it? And it's become more and more digital, hasn't it, where people are ordering more and more online, which was something that we never thought would happen before. But look, what's your views on cross-hire? What's the good and the bad there, Mark?
Do you know what? I actually think cross-hire has been tarred with a bad brush. I think years ago it wasn't great, because what would happen was I would rehire something from somebody, and an absolute disaster would potentially turn up. Yeah, I'd have an excavator that's producing more smoke than a Taliban tank in full retreat. Yeah, but I think one of the things that's actually happened today, to be honest with you, in the last, say, 8 years, I'd say, right, I think the standard of cross-hire is really, really good. When you actually look at all the companies, whether they be national or small little privates, one of the things that we've all got in common now is we've all got a good standard of plant. And that's been led by the customer, right? Because the customer doesn't want old machines. The customer doesn't want something that looks like it's come out of a war zone. And I think everybody has, over a period of time, has got the message. Machines need to be within a few years old. They need to have few hours. They need to look great. They need to operate great. It's a big no-no to have oils leaking or anything like that. Because you've got the environmental stuff. So actually, I think cross-hiring this day and age is actually really, really good, and it's a really feasible thing to do.
But what do you think the future of the hire is? Because we've talked about this before. Used to buy Komatsu 20 tonners back in my early day at 63k. They're probably 125 now. £650 a week back then. It's probably 650, 700 now. It's not really changed much. And then you look at drills, and tools and bits and pieces. It's like there's no real margin in hire in tools anymore. The big guys have ripped the arse out of it, haven't they? Where you got a cut quick that used to get like £36 a week. You'd be lucky to get £6 a week now. I mean, where's all that going to end? I mean,
it's a really good question, and I think plant and equipment, the capital expenditure of that is so high. There's probably always going to be. I think hire will actually get better over the next few years. But you're right, and that's an interesting question. I was talking to someone else about earlier this week. Tool hire is a different story. People almost look at tools as consumables now. All of my gang need a drill, a mixer, a quick cut, a trench rammer, a roller, and that's what they'll have. And it's almost like the tool hire companies have had to diversify into lots of other things: access, fencing, barrier. They really are getting into lots of other things, because you're right, Mark. I think if let's imagine you've got a bit of a fit out company, yeah. All the guys have got their tools. They've been bought by the company.
All I've seen is that these small independent companies doing really, really well, and the majors have come along trying to squeeze them out, buy them up, and then rather than take the good out of that independent, they've just merged them into their ways of working, and all that's done is driven down the prices and the service offering to the customer. And now you're seeing a real rebound, I think, where people are going back to that independent. But then what's going to happen is that as they lose in market share, the big nationals, they're just going to try and go and buy these independents up again and squeeze them out of the market. It's going to be a complete circle again, isn't it? Until someone else says, "Oh, I'm going to open an independent." It seems we don't seem to learn anything, do we? That's what I mean from the industry. We just keep on doing the same old things, driving the price down, trying to talk about utilisation, and everyone thinks, oh well, if I've got really good utilisation, I'm going to be making money. Yeah, in theory, but not if your rates are shite. And some of the rates out there from the majors. I mean, I'm not even going to go down the road of naming and shaming anyone, but we know that there's a company out there that've got 100 1.5 ton excavators, yeah, with trailers and breakers for £100 a week. And you think, what? You get more than that on your breaker, and you probably get 50, 60 quid, or probably the trailer's worth £100 if you've got on real rates. And that mini excavator, I just don't understand it. It seems like people are buying up business just to get revenue. And I think that's where, of course, then they can't afford these big companies to invest in the service. So what they're doing is dropping staff, getting rid of salespeople, the face-to-face, the Bobby on the street, as we used to call them. The salesman that used to go and knock on the door and take care of things. And that's where the independents are there going, rubbing their hands, going, "Oh, I'll have some of this. This is brilliant."
And do you think that's because of the way the UK market has been over the last few years, where you have, I just mentioned about the peaks and troughs? Is it that work seems to dry up, and when it dries up over here, it dries up quick? So then you get these guys panic. Oh, it's £100 for a digger and trailer. Then
I think it's about a bit of that, and I think it's about a bit of the fact there's some piss poor procurement going on. Whereas procurement guys out there in the industry are thinking, well, let's try and my job is to drive the cost down all the time. That's only part of their job. Surely the reliability and the service levels are the most important to get the job over the line. And that seems to go out the window. And every time there's a new, the trouble you mentioned, inconsistency in construction, where one man's working on this job and then at the end of it he's technically out employed, he's got to go and find another job somewhere else. Well, he moves to that next job and that next site, and his first thing is save some money. Well, because we're not pricing it correctly. We're not from the beginning. I mean, estimators in construction don't seriously take plant and consider into that much part of their tender. They look at it as a package and think, oh, it's going to cost me about that. And then as soon as it starts getting out of hand, they just want to drive the price down.
Yeah.
And we've got to change that but we've been talking about it for as long as I've been in the industry. So how do you change that? All I do know is that the myth out there, having worked for your Lynch's and had a good relationship with companies like Flannery's and M. O'Brien's, all I do know is that the myth that they go in and buy the work is bollocks. I mean, their rates are as good as they can be probably for the offering that they're giving. And some of the other companies are losing out not because of rate on that side, but they should still be more. So I mean, Flannery's will probably charge you 800 for a 20 tonner, but it should be 1,200, shouldn't it?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
It should be that 1% rule, shouldn't it?
When I'm not being funny. When you look at other industries, other sectors, and you're right, Mark. When you actually look at the slow creep, and it is slow, the slow creep of rates over the last 10 years, I'm not being funny. You go down your local Tesco's, right? There's food there that's doubled, right? In terms of a percentage, there's food there that's 100% more today than it was 10 years ago. Yet the 20-ton excavator has gone up 20 quid a week. And in some cases, as you said, where you got the rates for the bottom, some of the rates have gone down, but it's not gone down sustainably, and that's the key thing, isn't it? You talked about procurement people, you've got to think about the sustainability of your project, the sustainability of the market, and the sustainability of your supplier. If you said to me, oh, I'm going to, if you was a plumber, I'm going to do your bathroom, I'll do all your work for 20 quid. I'm going to think, oh, hold on a minute, mate, you're going to be bust by 1 o'clock this afternoon. You can't do my bathroom for 20 quid. So there's an element of, this isn't right. It can't be right. It's not right for sustainability. It's not right for service. It's not right for value. And what kind of value am I going to get if I pay the lowest price? I'm not going to get any value, am I?
Absolutely. And I think, it goes on to what do we think, the next part of the conversation really is, what do we think therefore the industry or the future of the industry, what does it look like in 10 years? Because, I see that we as an industry, hire companies, they now provide a little bit more than just a machine, don't they? You know yourself, you can't just dump a 20-ton machine on the site or drill and just drive off. The contractors are expecting like a complete site solution, more or less, aren't they? They want temporary power for the hire companies to set that up. They want compliance services, they want training, they want all this, but they still want it in the same price of what they're paying. It's just interesting. I did notice that the global trend is that they reckon within 10 years that 50%, which the UK was always more than 50% rented over owned in a way, but they do reckon in 10 years that 50% of the global market will be in hire, which is quite a change for the other countries that are out there. And obviously we've got a lot more online hire platforms, haven't we? A lot more electric plant, low emissions, which is a different debate. We should have that once in a couple of weeks we should turn and say who actually should be paying for the green equipment. Who should be paying for that? I mean, in your experience, what does that look like, Mark? Because it's a lot more expensive, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean,
I don't want to pay any more for it.
I'll answer that question. The government. And the reason why I say the government is because the government have mandated it. You've got to understand that all of these green credentials, have all come from government mandates, and now they're being pushed onto contractors. Some of the tier one contractors. You've got to be net zero by 2035. You've got to be carbon neutral. Blah blah blah. So all of these things that have been put into policies have actually come from the government. Because if the government turned around tomorrow, for example, and said, we're not going to go green anymore, don't worry about it, suddenly no one wants electric anymore. So let's be honest, the pressure to go electric and hydrogen and everything else is come from going green, the net zero policies, So ultimately, if you're championing that, which our government is, if you're going to champion that, then you need to aid the contractor, surely. So when a contractor bids for a new link relief road and the bid's higher than it should be okay that it's higher than it should be because you factored in electric.
So what you're saying is that we should go back to the old way of like which I thought was a good way. You had the construction gas oil. It was cheaper, wasn't it? You knew what it was for, farming and construction. It meant that you could get the job done a little bit cheaper if you was a contractor, and therefore the client would pay less. Now we're fluctuating all over the place. We're paying as much for diesel as we do putting our cars. So you maybe suggest that the government should offer a rebate on power, electric, or?
Well, I think the bid should be what it is. So if you can almost have two prices, If you want the relief road, built on diesel, it's 35 million. If you want the relief road built on net zero carbon electric machines and all the rest of it, then it's 45 million, right? And but what happens is the client will win that project with all these green credentials in there. Then they'll get onto the manufacturers or the plant companies and go, oh, what's the cheapest you can do me electric machine? That's not sustainable, is it? You want to be sustainable by going green, but it's not sustainable me hiring out a machine that's electric that costs 3 times the price for the same price as a diesel. It's not.
But some would argue that it's only 3 times the price and therefore you're paying a lot more because the technology is new and someone's got to buy into it. So, I mean, as an OEM, you're developing the electric machine and you feel, well, I want a return on that investment, don't I? Although I've got less of an engine, it's the design, the technology, the innovation behind it that someone should be paying for. And so we're arguing really who should be paying, aren't we? Is it the customer? Is it should the plant hire company just take it on the chin? I suppose the difficulty, and we spoke about this before, is knowing what the resale value of that particular electric machine is, because nobody knows that really. There's not many second-hand electric machines that have hit the market yet. In the next couple of years, probably they will. The first range of them, you see a 1 or 2 and access platforms coming through, but not on the big. You've seen a trend at the moment for a lot of the big electric 20 tonners out there. There's more and more. Not still a low percentage compared to diesel, but there's still more and more coming in. You think, well, how much is that going to be worth? And are you willing to take a bath on a 20-ton excavator that's fully electric just to tick a green box? I suppose the only people that could answer that is the big hire companies that have probably got 1 or 2 of these. And is it a PR thing or is it something that's going to drive the industry? Do you think that electric is going to happen, or do you think hydrogen? Because hydrogen, everyone's saying is just not going to happen. Don't matter what JCB say, it's just not going to happen.
I think it will. I think hydrogen. To be honest with you, I think both of them will. And with, I suppose, as an example of what we're talking about already. Yeah. So the Lower Thames Crossing project has to be zero fossil fuels. Yeah. So that's a government project to do tunnel under the Thames, yeah, and they want zero fossil fuel. So that in itself is helping, because the government have stated that the manufacturers know that's what they got to make. The hire companies know that's what they got to run. So that's the way to go forward. But before it was kind of like, oh, we've got to go green. What have you got? And it's kind of like, well, we haven't got anything, you know. So
don't you think that's driving the hire companies down to be what we just mentioned, that they have to have a full site kind of solution, where if I'm going to give you a hydrogen machine, I'm going to have to give you the means to fill that hydrogen machine up safely, aren't I? Because I now should be the expert in that hydrogen machine, and or I've got to have a specialist contractor that can do that, or supplier that can do that. And the same with the power on site. You know, it's not as easy as just going to plug it in the wall, is it? You're going to have full banks of power they're putting on site now, then big battery containers, and who controls that? Now, people that are doing big infrastructure jobs and offering out excavators and other bits and pieces are having to bring that in as part of their fleet now. It's part of their model. Now, some contractors will buy it in and hire it in, but a lot of the big hire companies are having to have that as part of their makeup, and that's another product to understand.
yeah, it's
When it
changing.
goes down and breaks down, now the whole site can't work, so I'm not going to pay for any of my machinery because your bloody charger don't work, or the hydrogen truck hasn't turned up. I mean, a hire company's got to adapt when the independents are coming up. That they have to adapt to becoming more site solution providers, not just equipment suppliers.
I think so. In the interim, for the short term, I think they will, because it's new technology, because it's new. Because the reality is, as a manufacturer and a hire company, you're not going to get anything to the market unless you can help the client understand it, fuel it, and run it. Yeah. So if I just said to you, "Yeah, Mark, here's a hydrogen excavator, fill your boots," you're going to say to me, "I can't hire that. I don't know where do I store it? How do I fill it? How long does it last? Who do I ring to get some hydrogen then?" So I'm never going to hire that to you unless I say to you, "Mark, here's the hydrogen machine. Give me a shout when you want it refueled. I'll get the tanks down there. I've got a guy, by the way, bit of a managed service. I've got a guy that'll refill that for you, blah, blah, blah." So I've almost got to do that stuff for you. And then what will happen is you'll find that some niches will grow from that. There will be private companies that will come along and go, "You know what? A bit like T&M do the fuel bowsers. You'll get a T&M of hydrogen. That's what'll happen. We're the hydrogen fuel refill specialists. Give us a call." And then the client will come away from you and say, "Mark, you're a bit expensive for all that refill stuff. There's a company called, let's call it H&M Hydrogen, yeah? There's a company called H&M that'll come and refuel my hydrogen machine. So I'll hire the machines off you, but I don't want the fuel off you anymore." And we see this currently. If you look at the generator industry, Speedy do generators, Power Electrics, all these kind of people, right? They offer their generators as a hire, but they all do a fuel management service. They all offer that. And you can have that if you want. They'll come and refill. They've got telematics. They can see when your quarter full, come out and fill it up. But the reality is, if you was to speak to those generator companies, and I do, they don't do lots of it, because people go to the fuel companies directly, Crown Oil or whoever else they use, Adler and Allen and all this, and they get a better rate to go direct to the fuel companies. And I think that's exactly what's going to happen with hydrogen. You'll start helping them with the hydrogen supply, but over a period of time, they'll find their own.
Excellent. Well, before we close up, we've gone back to front this week, but who cares? What's been doing your head in there, Mark? Really, what you had this week that's really done you nuts in?
Do you know what's done my? It's actually been doing my head in for a little while, but it come to a head this week, and I've had to bite the bullet and buy new ones. My phone was doing my head in, right? So my personal phone, I've had it a few years. I'm one of these. Let me just show you this. I'm one of these wraparound case guys. Yeah. So my phone, albeit is 5 years old, is immaculate, right? It's like a brand new phone, right? Now, what's done my head in is the battery has been misbehaving for probably the best part of a year now, yeah? And I got to the stage last week where the battery lasted half a day. I went up London on the train. I'm not even using it, by the way. This is my personal phone. It's in my pocket. I'm standing at the station. I have a look. I'm on 93%. Well, I've only just walked from the house, right? By the time I get to London, it's on like 80%. By midday, I've got to put low power mode on, right? And if that wasn't bad enough, because you could argue, Mark, why don't you take it and get yourself a new battery, right? The battery costs 85 quid from Apple, right? To have that put in. They valued my phone at 70 quid as a trade-in, right? And the real piss take is it doesn't support the updates anymore because it's like an iPhone 11. So I'm almost forced to buy a new phone, right? So
That's the reason why we had a depression in the 20s, Mark, because, that's the 1920s kids. It was because they made stuff to last too long. And then, you'd buy a refrigerator, it'd last for 20 years. Well, that's no good to the manufacturers. It needed to blow up. It's the same with Apple. I mean, mine, you get mine, look, got a lovely little on-screen thing there, but that's a battery. Look at the thickness of that. It's quite heavy, but I put a spare battery on there. I can get down the road. When it's at 30%, I just charge it. It gives me a whole 2 days worth of charge, Mark.
is that so? So you've had to have Apple put that extra mounted battery on, have you?
I bought it, yes. 27 quid from Amazon, mate.
I don't understand. So you had to take the phone apart to get that on?
No, it's a case.
What, the case has got a battery in it?
Yeah, the case has got a battery on the back, yeah.
So how does that plug into your iPhone then?
Because the bottom of the thing plugs in, it goes in like the case and it sits in the battery. Look.
Oh, right.
Yeah, and I just stick the iPhone in the thing.
What, and you've got like a double battery now?
But yeah, so there's so the case is a battery.
Right.
Well,
I'm impressed. Well,
that's not too much of a doing your head in, to be fair. I mean, I can't see you getting overstressed by having to buy a new phone.
Well, let me actually explain the context here, right? My train tickets was on my phone, right? And I'm getting some sort of weird anxiety because I'm on my way to Victoria, and I know I've got to scan the barcode on the phone when I get there, or the ticket geezer comes in the train and goes, "Oh, where's your ticket?" Now, on the way there, I had enough power. I know that. What I'm worried about is on the way back. Have I got enough? If my phone's dead, how do I scan to get on the train? Then when the ticket guy goes, "Have you got a ticket?" I'm going to go, "Oh, sorry, mate, my phone's dead." So
is that why you every time you're at the bar you can never get around him because you're like,
yeah, that's it. It's like my the Apple Pay's flat, yeah.
Anyway, do you always be doing my editing? Did you watch any of the Winter Olympics?
I watched loads. I really enjoyed that. Yeah, go on.
Did you like the hockey? Did you like that fantastic couple of double-header games with America and Canada?
I saw some of the hockey. I didn't see all of it.
Yeah, and then the final, that geezer from Canada. I mean, the Americans won it in the last minute, or the last thing. But what done my head in? You see that goalkeeper and the Canadian goalkeeper, and at the end, the Americans are right on him, and he's coming from everywhere. And you can imagine the goalkeeper that was me in Lidl. Have you ever been in Lidl?
Yeah, I've been in Lidl.
And they don't give a monkeys. I'm just sauntering through. I don't really do that much shopping in the supermarkets, to be fair. And if I do, I take I'm not used to a Lidl. There's not many around me, but I happen to find myself in a Lidl, and I think, it's quite nice. Nothing against the shop or whatever. But as I've bought me stuff and I've got it to the till, she's like throwing it. Literally, ding, ding. I'm like that, bang, getting it in, and like you got to be. I felt like that goalkeeper. I did, and I'm going slow down. She's going, this how we got to go quick, and then there's people around the till going to me. No, well look, that's why it's so cheap. The reason why it's so cheap because they get you through the till quickly. I'm thinking, I'm not going to have any goods here left. I'm holding up the bag like that to try and catch the chicken that's being thrown at me. It's like. I felt like I was doing a touchdown every time I had or one of them goalkeepers. Unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable.
I do remember. I do remember.
Nothing. And I don't think I didn't. I was so flustered. I didn't even get a chance to even look at how much I paid. I probably paid well over the odds. I think they're not as cheap as what people are making out. I think they get you so flustered that you just leave the shop to you're happy to get out there, and you don't know if you've done another 50 quid on top of what you've done in Marks and Spencer's.
Or some sort of food shrapnel all around you.
You know, you get home and you think, Jesus Christ, how's this survived? You know, your chicken split, your bloody, you know, your job. Oh, honestly.
That's
Don't
quality.
open the can of Coke or the bottle of Coke because that's all over the place.
That's it. Explodes. Yeah.
Unbelievable. A bit of an experience. But let's look at moving on. Tuesday, we'll be back with Charlie. We'll be talking about a few bits. I can't even remember what we were talking about, Mark, to be honest with you, but we're covering the problem with youth recruitment at the moment. There's a high rise in unemployment for young people leaving colleges and schools, and the reason behind that. But look, the plant hire industry, it might look simple from the outside, doesn't it? You know, it's just machines rented out the way we talk about it. But behind the scenes, there's a big ecosystem, and it's built on relationships, isn't it? And utilisation, and thousands of independent businesses competing with national giants. It's quite an interesting battle when you get into it, and we could probably sit here and talk about it all day. And despite the size of the big players, the industry is still driven by local companies, which is like Nation of Shopkeepers is a real good positive feel, I think, about it. You know, and it's built still by local companies and personal relationships. But if anyone listening has enjoyed today, you know, make sure you subscribe. That's the main thing. But don't miss the future episodes when we'll talk more about this, because we always come back round to it, don't we? About the actual goings on in and out hire and stuff like that. And look, bang a comment on the socials. Let us know how you feel. Do you work for an independent? Do you work for a national? You know, are we being too critical of nationals or what? Or what's anyone's thoughts out there? As they say, behind every machine on site, there's a business story there, isn't there? You know, by the sounds of it. It's a very, well, it's the reason why nobody leaves the hire industry when they come in. So if you ain't got nothing else, Mark, we'll say thanks for listening. And how about that?
Yeah, thanks for listening, everybody. And yeah, please do comment and let us know your thoughts below. It really does spur the conversation on and incite new conversations. So yeah, please comment and like and subscribe.
Nice one. Right.